Mr. Tony Fernandes, members of the ASEAN Business Club Advisory Council, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to all of you. Let me thank CIMB ASEAN Research Institute and the ASEAN Business Club for inviting me to speak at this forum. And let me thank Tony Fernandes for his very down-to-earth, very earthy, and very pointed address. As he highlighted, ASEAN is important to every ASEAN member. And I think we can all understand that. It's also important to note that ASEAN is important to the rest of the world. And I think Tony mentioned the huge potential that ASEAN brings on the table. We are a market of 600 million people. We have an average GDP growth rate of 6% compared to the global average of 4% in the last decade. And this makes ASEAN the 7th largest economy in the world. And in Asia, we are the 3rd largest economy with some $2.8 trillion US dollars in 2013. So there's no dispute. I think many analysts will converge in their optimism about ASEAN's prospects. If I can quote some of these studies, a Deloitte study recently projected that 5 of the top 15 manufacturing locations in the world will be in ASEAN by 2018. The ASEAN Development Bank estimates that the size of the middle class in ASEAN will rise from 24% of our population in 2010 to some 65% in 2030. So this rapidly growing middle class, with its increased spending power, will be a key driver of consumer demand. And by 2050, ASEAN is projected to be the 4th largest economy in the world after the EU, the US, and China. But potential alone doesn't guarantee results. So the ability of ASEAN to fully realize its potential and maintain its share of global growth depends fundamentally on our collective vision and on our maintaining the values which underpin ASEAN's growth. I think Tony mentioned some of these values. Let me reiterate. First is to maintain regional stability. Second, to keep our markets open. Third, to adopt pro-growth policies. And finally, to strengthen our efforts at integration. This was the collaborative spirit with which ASEAN first formed in 1967, with its first 5 members holding the belief that countries in Southeast Asia would have a stronger voice in addressing major powers if we could speak together, and where peace, cooperation, and ultimately integration will serve our interests, whereas individual efforts may not. That point in history was surely a game changer for ASEAN then. So now we have to look for the next game changer for ASEAN, going forward. With 2015 fast approaching, ASEAN countries have made steady progress in realizing the ASEAN Economic Community. Virtually all goods in ASEAN now move throughout the region tariff-free. The focus now is on eliminating non-tariff barriers, improving trade facilitation, and more importantly, in harmonizing standards to ensure that businesses will operate in a stable and predictable environment. Stronger rules for protection of your investments in ASEAN have been established under the ASEAN Comprehensive Investment Agreement, and ASEAN members are now aligning their domestic regulations with this agreement. And when these internal processes are completed, these stronger rules will provide opportunities to generate more investment and create good jobs for the ASEAN people. Businesses can also look forward to more seamless customs procedures. A major concern for businesses with production networks across the region. ASEAN countries are working hard to put in place and harmonize ASEAN-wide trade facilitation initiatives. These include a self-certification system which will allow exporters to certify export documents on their own. Another initiative that will reduce costs for businesses is the ASEAN Single Window. When concluded, this may be the first regional initiative that will link the single windows of all 10 ASEAN countries electronically, which would enable businesses to reduce costs and enjoy simpler and faster custom clearance of goods within ASEAN. The key is integration, and here I'd like to add my voice to what Tony Fernandes said just now. Businesses can play a big part. Government and businesses need to work in tandem. Many of you here represent companies with a regional or global network. You would have a vested interest in the future of ASEAN and the ease with which you move your goods, services, labor, and capital across this region. So in this regard, this forum has a very important function in bringing together key industry leaders and stakeholders to discuss and effect positive changes in our region. The ASEAN Economic Community 2015 journey will not be the end of the road for ASEAN. Indeed, the game changer for ASEAN will be further deepening our economic interdependence regionally. And this has to be done in a manner that's relevant to today's business realities. So ASEAN is not only about intergovernment discussions, as Mr. Fernandes pointed out. Businesses play a critical role in telling us where the barriers to trade lie and where the bottlenecks in our regional and global value chains are. So to that end, ASEAN countries are now working to develop its post-2015 economic agenda. As businesses with networks around the region, we will welcome your input to shape this next phase of our regional integration. Last year, Network ASEAN Forum produced a series of Lifting the Barriers reports, which pointed out that there were significant areas where improvements in infrastructure and connectivity policies can be better regulated to reduce barriers across ASEAN and drive further integration. At the ASEAN Economic Ministers meeting just last month, the ASEAN Business Advisory Council, ABAC, presented its recommendations to tackle barriers to trade. We value this business feedback, and we have invited the Council to surface these specific issues so that our officials can resolve them with the respective authorities. These are all very important endeavors to boost ASEAN's efforts towards deeper economic integration. Now, integration does not just lie within the ASEAN region, but goes beyond us to the greater Asia. Integration does not stop at ASEAN's borders. The ongoing negotiations of the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, or RCEP, RCEP, are a defining point in our endeavor towards greater integration beyond our region. The RCEP will bring ASEAN and its 6 free trade agreement partners in closer economic linkages with one another, and will in fact integrate 1/3 of the world's GDP and over 3 billion people, or some 45% of the world's population. The RCEP seeks to consolidate ASEAN's existing FTAs and is aimed at setting simple, open, and flexible trade rules for businesses to operate easily in order to further integrate ASEAN into the greater Asian and the global value chain. We are not alone in seeing the value of pursuing trade liberalization and reform through FTAs. the ongoing negotiations of the Trans-Pacific Partnership, or the TPP, the trilateral China, Japan, Korea FTA, and the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership, TTIP, between the US and EU are significant regional integration efforts. Many of their members are major trading partners of ASEAN. While they may signal a shift in trade and economic gravity away from ASEAN, these initiatives also offer the prospect of still larger integration beyond ASEAN and with the ASEAN community. So together with the TPP, the RCEP could provide a possible pathway to a free trade area of the Asia-Pacific, which, if realized, will be an unprecedented boost to economic interconnectivity. So, ladies and gentlemen, deepening integration is the only way forward. If ASEAN wants to remain relevant and compete successfully in an increasingly globalized world. Individually, most ASEAN countries may be too small to be game changers in the global market. But collectively and with integration, we have a better chance of leveraging our collective strength to respond to global opportunities and challenges. I am optimistic about ASEAN's prospects too. ASEAN's community building efforts have enjoyed strong political and economic support and commitment, stemming from shared value since 1967 in the imperative of regional integration. As a business community that is well placed to take advantage of the opportunities in this region, there's much to look forward to. So I encourage all of you to continue to lend your voice to the ASEAN community, to work with us in partnership in our common goal to increase trade, increase investment flows, create jobs, and boost growth. So on this note, I wish you all a very productive session ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you to the Honourable Mr. Lim Hng Kiang.